jumping off the side of the hill.
Oh, Jesus. Fuck. Oh!
You're going up the steepest hill on the Flinders Ranges using your knees on the steering wheel.
Hi there, I'm David Wilson and welcome to Loaded 4x4, the latest and greatest four-wheel drive YouTube channel. Now I've got a very important role to do first up, and that's to introduce my fellow four-wheel drive panellists here. So on my right hand side, your left, I've got Georgia. Now Georgia has been four-wheel driving since she was a baby in arms. Rose, she's been a four-wheel driver since she's been a baby in my arms. And Steane close down the end here, is our illustrious editor and founder of Loaded 4x4 way back in 2014. So Steane, tell us about Loaded 4x4.
Back in 2017, we got together, put a website together and a magazine. We produced 12 issues of the Loaded 4x4 magazine, and it's free, and you can check it out on our website still. But it died from COVID in March 2020.
Yep.
The year everything died from COVID.
Such a shame.
And we built this studio and have now turned it into a YouTube production. So we take the latest and greatest four-wheel drives to amazing off-road locations, mostly South Australia, but we'll get out to other places as well.
So Rose, tell us about episode 1 and what are we driving and where are we going?
Well, in this episode, we're actually taking two cars up to one of the amazing locations, the Southern Flinders in South Australia, Bendleby Ranges, great place, and the vehicles that we actually take up, which you've all had a bit of a test drive, is the MR Triton, the not so new MR Triton, and that's up against the new D-Max Isuzu.
Great cars,
Yeah.
and we really put them to test, and funnily, they were both the same colour. Go figure.
Yeah, I know.
Just to make it difficult.
Georgia, tell us about Bendleby. What's all that about?
Well, how good that we got to test them in Bendleby. It's such a beautiful location. It's only 3.5 hours north of Adelaide, and you've got camping, you've got cabin accommodation, heaps of four-wheel drive tracks, all different skill levels. We got to test stock cars on a really gnarly track, and that was just so good, and I think it really proved how capable these four-wheel drives are.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So I think without further ado, we should just get stuck into the vision and have a look at the journey.
Yeah.
Pretty good, despite the kind of miserable conditions outside. It's always fun coming up to Bendleby, so much fun. We're trying out a new track today as well.
Hungry Highway, it's a new track on the Bendleby Ranges, and it's got challenges, lots of sky, so you don't really know where the track is going to go. So that's interesting, to say the least. And yeah, there's always great views on these tracks, so well worth the effort of coming out and spending a day on the track.
In terms of difficulty, there are sections of this track that are right up there with Billy Goat, and you might remember we always rated that at about a 8 or 9 or maybe even 10 out of 10. In fact, I think in recent times there's been a lot of erosion on it, and it's now a whole lot harder, but this is getting there, and the views are stunning.
That, I reckon, would be the Minborough Plain.
Is that looking out to Oro?
No, that'd be south of here. That's looking more out towards Yunta.
And the Hungry Ranges at Bendleby is where the tough tracks are.
Yeah.
The tougher tracks.
Yeah. So Rose, are you ready to hand in your MUX, trade it in for Trev the Triton?
I'm not quite there, but as a backup, it's pretty good.
Is that right?
That was very diplomatic.
Well, the other contrast too from all the other times we've come up here is the rain, and it's horizontal rain. It's amazing.
It's nice to see the Flinders in a different light or different lens, a wet lens.
I wonder what it was like back in September when they had that 80 or 90 mils come through. That must have been pretty epic.
Now we've just come out of the hills with all their scree slopes, with all the rocks and good grip. Now we're down on the flat and we're down into the clay sections, and have a look what's happened to the tyres. So this is why passenger car tyres on four-wheel drives aren't much chop when the elements are against you, because they fill up with crud and offer up zero grip. And here's the classic illustration of it.
Well, it's time to get stuck into the show, and our first segment is one that Steane and I shot on the brand new, all new 2021 Isuzu D-Max. Steve, roll that tape.
So we're up on King's Ridge track?
Yep.
Something like that.
King's Ridge track.
In the D-Max?
Yep.
This
Runs
time?
off the Billy Goat track, which is the 10 out of 10 track. This is rated as a
doing
9
my
out
best
of
not
10.
to hit too many rocks. It's a bit of a rocky track, this one. Beautiful track,
Yeah.
as far as scenery goes, and driving.
Ramp over angles are a bit
Yeah.
of an issue on it. And we've already touched down the side steps.
So what we've found is that the D-Max will touch underneath on ramp over
Yep.
a lot easier than the Triton will, because the Triton's shorter wheelbase.
Yep. And that was my problem
Yeah.
yesterday
Yep.
on the training track.
And we've got some great footage of that
Yep.
we'll show in the show at some point.
And something else the viewers need to know is that Isuzu have elected to put composite bash plates underneath this vehicle, aka plastic,
Yep.
which aren't bash plates. So at the very front of the car there is a steel plate that covers up the front suspension and the radiator. Going behind that for the sump is a plastic moulded structure, so it's got ribs in it, so it's sort of strong.
One of the things you upgrade on most of these cars is the underbody protection.
And it's
Along with
probably
the
worth mentioning, Steane, that
tyres
we're
and the
doing
suspension.
some work on some
We'll
underbody
have,
stuff
we'll have
at
our
the
own
moment.
gear out at some point.
Yeah, so you might want to keep an eye on the Loaded online store site to see what we've got in mind for that, because we need to rectify that problem. Anyway, back to the driving of this car. What are you thinking?
Well, overall, I think we both agree that it's a better car than
Yes.
the Triton, but the Triton punches above its weight still.
It
Even
does.
though it's now a really old
Yep.
chassis, a narrow body,
Yep.
which has its advantages, a shorter wheelbase, which has its advantages, as we've found out. It's got a poor departure angle, the Triton, compared to this.
Yep.
Triton's got Super Select, that's a bonus.
Yeah, Ripper transmission.
So all-wheel drive.
Yep.
It's got better. We did some traction control testing, so in low range, it's definitely
Just chimes in a little bit sooner on
yeah.
the
Well,
rocks.
it was quite significantly better, I thought,
Yep.
and smoother.
Yep. Yep.
The way it chimed in, and we also did some high-speed stability control testing.
Holy
Which
shit.
this one-
Where is this track going
Yeah,
now?
I think we go down to the
Yeah,
left.
I think we will.
So, and I'll excuse me if I have a look at concentration on my face
Yep.
because it's a bit gnarly.
And what you're doing now, something that I've noticed with the Triton compared to the D-Max, is that when the bonnet comes up, you can see naught, zip.
In the Triton.
Yeah. And in Trev, yours, so the previous
Yeah.
generation with the
Yeah.
sloping bonnet,
Yeah,
is
much
a
easier
whole
to
lot better.
work out where the front wheels are.
Yeah.
In that.
Nicely done, Steve.
Having said that, the D-Max is a bit the same, isn't it? It's got a nice flat bonnet,
Yeah.
which makes it harder to pick the corners.
And I think now with the new model D-Max, because you're sitting down lower into the cabin, that just adds that extra layer of complexity.
And we're doing this in a stock standard vehicle, standard rubber, which is crap.
Yeah. And by the way, I've got the tyres set at 20 psi
Yeah.
in deference to the rocks at the moment.
Yeah. So getting back to the stability control, this car was significantly better than the Triton stability control.
Yep. So you'd expect that, because Isuzu has spent a lot of money on the IDAS system
Yep.
and all the active safeties that go with it.
Yeah, this car's just easier to drive too, as it's got lighter steering.
Yep. And the other thing I noticed too is the suspension on this is a bit more compliant in this terrain.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's got a longer wheelbase as well, so it's not quite as jiggly as the Triton.
Yeah. But don't write the Triton off, because it is a great car, and at the price point.
Well, I was going to say, so there's what, $7,000 to $8,000 difference. This is a top of the range D-Max. That's the top of the range Triton.
Yep.
7 to 8K is a lot of money.
So you could spend that on suspension tyres.
Would you save the money and get the Triton?
No. Because
I've been debating that one, because I've had Tritons, 2 Tritons now, and I think they're great cars and really underrated. And I still think I think the MR is a great car.
Yep.
But this is just
much better.
Yeah,
and I make my
it's
comment.
incrementally better.
Yeah, I make my comment based on the fact that the Triton is around about a 10-year-old platform now, whereas this is brand spanker.
Yeah.
Everything. So
it's a bit more polished.
Yeah, you can't knock that. But not without its faults. So it still probably needs suspension to get it up in the air.
It definitely needs some ground clearance.
Yeah, better wheel and tyre package, and then it'll go places.
Yeah, underbody protection.
Yep. But it is a corker ute.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the best of the lot at the moment.
Yeah.
By a small margin. It's not a game changer, but it's a very nice truck.
So there you have it. We reckon we're smitten. D-Max, huge ute.
Yep, absolutely.
So that weather was pretty shit that day, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So now that it's been a couple of months down the track and you drive the D-Max currently now, what do you think about it?
Well, I have to tell you that I still like the car a lot. I think it's a massive improvement because you know we've got a 2014 D-Max that you drive a lot, Rose drives a lot, Steven Steane's had a crack at it. So everybody's had a crack at it, and it was a workman-like machine.
Yeah.
But the new one is so far ahead, it's not funny.
Well, it's like
so
a new car.
Yeah, it is. It's a brilliant ute, and it might as well have come from a different maker. It is so un-Isuzu. I hope they don't cut my throat for saying that. But there's things on it that aren't perfect, and I know that we've all had some ideas on that.
Yeah.
So, Rose, what do you think about good old IDAS?
Well, I think generally it's a good idea. You know, you do feel safer, but it gets in the way sometimes, annoyingly in the way. So as you're going along a track and it's perfectly clear, it'll come up to a bush and it starts beeping.
Yeah.
And I know there's a bush there. I'm not going to go into the bush,
Yeah.
but
We'll give it a try.
beep. Yeah, I know.
It's also
It's just,
really annoying on road too at times.
it does,
Yeah.
yeah. It goes off on road when you've got it under control.
And it makes you question your intuition. That's the
Yeah.
thing that frustrates me
Yeah.
because
But-
I like to be assertive and you know in your mind because you've been driving so long what's around you. But when you hear this loud beep and it applies the brakes, you're like all of a sudden
Yes.
what's going on? What's
Yeah.
going on?
You're actually
Yeah.
adjusting your driving around the car,
Yeah.
which is really odd, I think.
Yeah.
And not necessarily a good thing.
I found a couple of days this week, I reckon it's told me I've almost had a crash 4 times a day. Red light flashing on. Rose, tell us what IDAS means, because I've forgotten.
Well, I shall tell you, it
Because he's
is.
not an intelligent driver.
You need the IDAS. Intelligent Driver Assistance System.
Very good.
Yes, IDAS.
Which is their package of active safety
Yeah.
Yeah.
gear that's now part of the D-Max.
Yeah, I mean, there's situations where it works brilliantly. You know, if you're actually sort of on the open road and you're behind a car who's, that's going sort of, the correct speed limit, it will adjust, and that's great because you're not.
The autonomous cruise control.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
So
yeah,
it uses radars in the front of the car and slows down, and you can basically follow a car.
that's it.
But
Yeah.
when you're not concentrating, that car slows down. You slow down with it.
Yeah.
Well,
And
that's it. You hope the car in front is going at a steady pace.
But
And
even
that works
off-road,
perfectly.
off-road with the IDAS, the systems, I think the stability control was amazing because when we were doing the slalom on the wet dirt, that was way better than the Triton.
Yeah, it picked up real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It actually doesn't show it so well on the footage, but it does actually work a lot better. Than
Well,
Yeah.
in fact, that's probably why it didn't look as exciting in the D-Max, because it's tickling the brakes and feathering the throttle, and we just couldn't get it sideways.
Yeah.
So that's got to save a lot of lives.
For sure.
As a driver trainer, that impresses me greatly.
Yeah.
Do you reckon, Georgia, they should have a button to turn the whole bloody lot off?
I'd love that. I'd
Yeah,
love that.
Ditto that.
Yeah.
but
I think that should happen
Yeah.
because I'm not at a place now where I'm ready for all of this high-tech
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
I think there's still room for, you know, like the old school four-wheel drives. That's how I like to drive. I like
Yes.
you know, you press a button, it does its job. I don't need all
Or
the
move a
other,
lever.
I don't need all the other bells and whistles. It just complicates it too
So
much.
an old school kind of guy.
Yeah.
And perhaps for the benefit of the viewers, we should probably explain a lot of these new safety technologies require of you to manually intervene and turn them off. So there's a menu that you can scroll through to turn these things off, but it obviously takes time.
It's a real deep dive into the
Yeah.
thing. It's hard to see on the screen, I found, because my eyes are tired.
And doesn't it reset?
Every time you turn the car on and restart it,
Yeah.
you've got to go back in there and do
Yeah,
it again.
that's
So
annoying.
it needs a button where you could even perhaps even select just to turn off. For on-road driving, I'd turn off the AEB or the autonomous emergency braking, because
Well, you
I
came up
nearly
to a
got out.
roundabout.
I nearly got out and kicked the car a couple of times. It throws you into an emergency stop when it shouldn't.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so annoying,
Because it's,
isn't it?
'cause it's so
Yeah,
sensitively tuned. And I get why it's sensitively tuned, because they
Yeah.
want to save lives. But
Yeah.
I'd tweak the tuning a little bit and have a button to turn it off as well.
All right. So we're all in agreement that the autonomous world is coming, it's looming.
It is.
But we'd
Can't
rather
avoid it.
like to be ducking
Flexibility.
it if we could.
Well,
Can't
and
avoid it, but
flexibility.
it's crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I'd like
my
the
opinion.
flexibility of putting in your own settings and keeping it there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Talking about off-road, one of the complaints I had with the previous model is that off-road it was really pretty average. The traction control system was total rubbish. It would only kick in at 2,500 revs, so that told me it was only tuned for an
So you're
on-road
sort of doing a
situation.
burnout when
Yeah.
it kicks in.
Yeah. So to fix that and to preserve the driveline, I had to elect to put an ARB air locker in the back axle of it, and that fixed it. So I'm pleased to see that the new model has got a rear diff lock
Yeah.
right from the get-go.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a big.
Yeah,
Tick.
tick.
And it works
Yeah.
really well.
And what did we think of the traction control? Because we had a couple of mixed results, like on the test track. We thought it wasn't as good as the Triton, and I'm still trying to work that out, whether it was the crappy tyres or the surface or the wheelbase. I mean, there's a bunch of influences.
Yeah, it's hard to test, and if you look in the footage, it comes down to a little bit to your acceleration going up the hill as well. So if you carry a bit more momentum in a car, it'll work better. But I'm convinced the Tritons are still better. The Triton still kicks in smoother and sooner and is more intuitive as for the driver's point of view. You can drive up the hill and drive through it with a little bit of throttle,
Yep.
whereas the D-Max tended to spin a wheel and needed more throttle and then you'd spin a wheel.
Yep. And then, of course, if you're really struggling with that, that's the time to hook up
Yeah.
the diff lock.
Yeah.
So,
Miles better than the old car,
yeah.
and up there with the current crop of use.
Now, Rose, your personal car is an MUX, which is
It
pretty
is.
much the D-Max driveline, like previous generation. You've driven both cars now, so off-road, was the D-Max better?
It was.
In your eyes? Yeah.
It was because it was just so easy to steer. It was a smoother ride.
Yeah.
That
It was-
steering.
I
isn't
know,
it?
The
that
steering.
is
Steering's
whew,
amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
A dream.
Yeah.
Smooth
Yes.
car as well, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a better
And your
vehicle.
MUX doesn't have a diff lock, does it? Does it?
No.
No.
So it's got no. It's
No.
only got the traction control.
Well, that's
so
it, yeah.
You would have found it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Quite different.
yeah.
Luckily, with the MUX, it's got the coil spring, so it keeps the back end on
And
the ground a lot.
My
lot
MUX
longer.
does have a lift kit, so you know
Yeah.
the new D-Max, you know, that was upper higher.
It'd be
It'd be
Did tend
good.
to hit a few
Yeah.
things, didn't it?
Just a little bit.
So, as usual, Loaded 4x4, the group of expert panellists come up with some riveting discussions on the brand new D-Max, but now we need to have a riveting look at some of the gear that we've got in the Good Gear. Good Gear by Loaded 4x4. I have in front of me what's got to be the world's sexiest looking tow bar.
I reckon you're right, David. So sexy, I've got one on Trev, the Triton.
Of course.
Love it. One of the first ones,
Nicely.
actually. Yeah.
I mean, look at it. It just exudes quality. There's no hard edges. The wheels are just beautiful.
The thought that's gone into this tow bar is unbelievable. And we'll run you through it now, what the advantages of this tow bar are over anything else out there.
And we should probably, at this point, introduce who it's come from.
Exactly.
So, Milford Industries make this in South Australia. So, we've had the benefit of going down to Milford and having a look at their facility.
Yep, fantastic place.
And-
Big factory where they're still making stuff in South Australia. It's
And lots of
fantastic.
big machines,
Yep.
lots of sparks,
Yep.
lots of people
Yep.
walking around.
Yep.
And
lots of bright sparks as
yeah.
well. So what you get, and it all comes in a box which we'll show you later, is this crossbar with the receiver there. You get a hitch, a couple of end plates. What else have we got down there, Dave? What's down your side?
Well, there's
Some
hardware,
fixings,
of course.
There's aircraft grade fixings,
One of those
chrome tow ball.
balls.
and some really interesting gear here. So this is their hitch hush system. One of the
Hitch hush.
Hitch hush.
And what's its
So
job?
I'll try and get this fitted while we chat.
Let's roll that over. So what's its job?
This keeps the hitch hushed.
Of course.
So you don't get a rattling hitch with this tow bar.
So ordinarily you'd have the hitch or the lug in the receiver, and just with the pin through it, it'd be rattling around and carrying.
So there's always these never fit, but they do on this bar. They fit really well. They've actually designed it to fit quite well. Right. So this is all fabricated to have as little room as possible between the hitch and the inside of the receiver. Right. So it shouldn't rattle too much.
Yep.
But the hitch hush.
Drop it in.
Fixes all of the rattles. So if we roll that back like that, there you go.
And we've got this poly material in
so
here.
So it puts a bit of pressure on the hitch.
Positive pressure.
And stops it all rattling.
What's the gear that's on this?
So this is Milford's, coated with Milford's Armortex high-tech anti-corrosion finish.
Sounds sexy.
It does sound sexy, like the tow bar.
Yeah.
And it's apparently 650 times more resistant than regular satin powder coating.
Yeah, you can see that they've gone to a hell of a lot of trouble. And I remember when we were doing the factory tour that I saw the laser cutting that was going on the bench. Yep. So big sheets of steel cut up into these intricate shapes. And what have we got going on here? What's the story of this one?
They're the end plates. So they lock in. You might be able to slip one in over there. They come in off your chassis. So your chassis rail's up here.
You just drop in like so.
Bolt up to your chassis rail. Yep. The crossbar plugs in there.
So if you were
it basically holds it in. So those cutouts on both sides will hold this crossbar in.
Now the other thing too is that Milford scan all these vehicles. So they receive a vehicle in, scan all the locating points so that they can get the most seamless and streamlined installation.
So David, Milford's version of the old style pin, the bent piece of steel, is this, stainless steel.
And that will never rust.
The plastic end of it, never rust, and fits, as you'd expect with Milford, perfectly.
Yeah, straight into the hitch there.
Compare that to that again. Yep. So this is a Milford drop hitch.
Yep.
This is a 100mm drop hitch.
Yep.
Now this one, they can't rate with their tow bars.
Right.
So anyone using one of these should know that any tow bar you use a 100mm drop hitch on,
there's a reducing value.
You're going to reduce the rating on the tow bar.
And that would all be because of the leverage that's being exerted on the point.
What Milford do is they test. So this is a 75mm drop lug, which you can buy separately to your tow bar for the new D-Max only at the moment. And obviously as the new cars and new bars come in, they'll roll this whole drop hitch availability out with each one.
Yep.
So there's a 75mm and a 50mm, both of which are available retaining the rating, in this case 3.5 tonne or 3,500 kilos.
Yep.
With the
and we know for a fact that Milford don't pull punches on this because they've got their Dynaload testing facility at
we've seen it in action
at Camden Park, and it's an amazing facility. It does all sorts of rig testing on these things. So if they make that statement, it must be right.
They basically test it from all angles. So downwards pressure, sideways pressure.
Yep.
Shake the crap out of the car it's on. They break chassis doing it.
Yeah.
They basically test to destruction.
Yep. So that is Milford's Ultimate Tow Bar. You can find it on the Milford website, which is www.milford1.1. Sorry, that's it. You've got it.
So these two clowns had to go in the D-Max. So now it's Georgia and my turn to go and show you what we thought about it. Pre-warning, there might be a few words that you may need to cover up your ears, the occasional fuck, but if you don't like fuck, then go for it. Okay, let's roll.
That's beautiful.
Oh, Jesus, fuck.
Well, that's a good start, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay. So this is the new track on Bendleby. Another new one?
Yeah, I think so.
And you've been on it before, Georgia, so...
Yeah, it's probably not as hard as Billy Goat, but it's definitely scenic.
Yep. But still got some challenges.
Especially Pat's Peak, a couple of declines.
Yeah. Well, you know, driving this Isuzu, it's certainly able to traverse all sorts of things.
Yeah, the power steering's great.
Yeah, very light. Very light. And comfortable.
You've got your seat warmer on.
Well, it is a bit cool today. But it certainly does the trick, warming up my backside. So what do you think about the new Isuzu?
I think it's good. It's massive step up from the old one. I mean, I still love the old one, obviously, because I drive it, but yeah, it's like a whole new car essentially.
Yeah. The other one's
so up to speed with all the other models now, if not surpassing it.
Certainly with the safety features.
I could probably leave the beeping of the safety features though, especially when you're forward driving. You're still getting alerts when you're about to hit a rock or something.
Or
that's quite frustrating.
Close bush overhanging the track. Yeah. But I suppose on the open road, it's pretty. It's good. Yeah, good to have safety for sure.
Although I've kind of noticed that it makes me question my intuition. So like when I'm normally driving, you're assertive and you know what you're doing. You kind of know your surroundings. But then when you hear a beep and the flashing of the red light in front, it just throws you off. And it's like, oh, what's around me? But there's actually nothing.
Yeah. It's almost like a bit of a distraction in a way.
Yeah.
But I suppose generally, you know, the more safety features you have on the car.
Yeah, I guess it's just something you get conditioned to.
Yes, yeah. So, seatbelts on. It's really great because it just slowly inches along and up the track. You know, they were big boulders that we went over, but you can just, there's so much control, isn't there?
Yep. I just can't get over the power steering.
I know, I
think that's my favourite thing about this car. It's so easy.
It just keeps on giving. Every time you get in the car, there it is. It's just so easy to drive.
I mean, I can't see jack shit at this point, but let's just do it.
That's good. Aim for me.
I think you got that one.
There are some big rocks that are scraping underneath, FYI.
Roger that.
Compared to the older D-Max that we have, and the MUX for that matter, there seems to be more bonnet in the front, and it might be okay if you were a slightly taller person than myself, but I think
as in it's harder to look over this one?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I've noticed you haven't been able to see as much. It's that beeping.
I think it's
really
telling us that we're
yes,
close to a rock.
It looks like we're about to drive into an obstacle according to the car, but it's bloody annoying. When you're doing tracks like these, you kind of need an alert to say there's no track underneath you rather than there is something underneath you.
So girls, there's lots of touchdowns in that little clip, wasn't there?
Well, what do you expect?
Like I was rocking and rolling underneath that car.
Well, it's inevitable if it's a four-wheel drive track.
You noticed it a lot more with the D-Max compared to the Triton.
Yeah, and going down those more challenging tracks like Pat's Peak, the scree slopes especially, in the D-Max there were a few touchdowns and scrapes of underneath.
But the other thing is that bonnet is like quite flat, and I think it's a little bit hard to see across. So
it is.
You know, you can't really see what's coming up.
I noticed
until you sort of
the biggest point of difference there is going from your generation MUX, my generation D-Max, to this new one. You're sitting in the cabin a lot.
Oh, definitely.
It's actually the same with the Triton. So if you jump in the MR Triton, that's a flat bonnet. If you jump in Trevor Tame Triton, you can see the corners.
Yeah.
So it's something that's just, it's a styling thing, I guess.
Yeah,
you're going with flat bonnets and big fronts.
I mean, not ideal when you're full driving, considering, as I said in the video, I couldn't see jack shit because you're looking where the track is and you can't see anything.
No.
It's a bit sketchy.
It makes it a little bit harder until you get used to the car.
And it's that old devolution of four-wheel drive design to cater more to the city usage rather than the off-road usage. Now, interior. new D-Max is way better than the old clunker. One, from an oral perspective, so less rowdy motor.
Yeah.
Do you pick that up?
Definitely.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
very quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could hear ourselves talk and swear and everything.
We did too.
Less rattling.
Yeah, less
Compared to
no,
the 4JJ1.
no, it was just a breeze to drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about, but the other thing I've noticed too is that it's better in the tactile department. So where you put your elbows and things, it's way more comfortable.
Yeah,
than
I feel like I'm not
the old
leaning
model.
over so much to rest my elbow on the centre console, or even like up on the door for the armrest.
Yep.
And Isuzus, they have the bottle, the cup holders.
Yeah, up in the dashboard.
The best of the business, aren't they?
Oh, they are, you know.
Double T.
Well, they
Not
come out
one
on the
there,
air conditioners.
one down there, not one there,
Yeah.
one in the middle. I
Yeah.
mean, in the back,
Yeah.
no worries,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
at least two there
Yeah, absolutely.
on each side.
Yeah, so with your tinny in the air conditioning vent, it naturally keeps it cold.
Exactly.
It's a wider car inside than the Triton. I thought
Yeah.
the seats are probably better in the D-Max. It's just a more comfortable car. It's got a really nice interior.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
tell you one thing I can do without on the new one I've got now is carpet. Why did I tick that box?
Yeah.
Give me a vinyl floor every day. But
Yeah.
anyway, if you're thinking about buying a new
He doesn't
D-Max,
like leather. He doesn't like carpet. He hates 19 or 18-inch wheels. You'll get used to this.
Yeah.
I like the heated seats.
No, there you
Well,
go.
yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'll take the leather, thanks. I'll take the carpet. I don't mind 18-inch wheels. It's all good.
Yeah.
All right, so we're in unanimity that interior-wise it's a
Yeah.
very
Yeah,
comfortable
big
place
win.
to
Very
be.
nice car.
Tick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good.
So, Steane, this next segment, I think you're getting your David Attenborough on, aren't you?
Well, can a 50-year-old talk about his mum? 'Cause I don't know shit about birds. I learned it all from my mum. These are possil birds that we're about to look at that hang out in groups of 12. Unless I hung out with my mum on some of these trips. It's not a good thing to say, is it? Really?
Check it out, bit of nature coming your way.
And there's a couple of little chicks up there. I think there's 3 of them actually.
Looks like it.
And mum or the dad feeding them. And they're called apostle birds because they generally hang out in groups of 12. That's
As
the
you
theory.
do.
Yeah. So what happens when they have 3 babies?
Well, I think it upsets the dynamic
Do
of the
they
family.
kick 3 of the elders out or?
Maybe.
Yeah. But I've never seen chicks like that before. And these are quite tame birds. They're used to the campers around here.
Yeah.
And been hanging around us while we've done this shoot on the offline camper.
Yeah, they're great. Another good reason to come up to Flinders Ranges.
Coming up next, we're going to have a look at the new offline camper trailer.
And did you know is built right here in South Australia?
I did know that, but check it out.
So, Steane, how's this for a first?
Yep.
We're up in the Bendleby Ranges, up in the Flinders Ranges of South Australia, and we're doing our first look at a proper camper trailer.
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
And
It's a beauty.
Yep.
It's called offline campers. So how about I just show you?
yeah, show me what it's got. Let's have a look.
So it's got all these press button
Yep.
latches right around the body.
So what's in there? That's just a storage area, is it?
Storage bin. So there's a really big space in there, and I reckon that's where my baby Weber would go.
Yep.
No problem
Sure.
at all. And down in here is the business for the suspension.
Uh-huh.
So we've got a compressor that's hooked up to this, and cleverly Sam's even put a line out so that if you want to pump the tyres up
Yep.
or down, you can
Yep.
do that as well.
Unlock those. As
So
I've just
there's a
found out.
really generous bin in there that's got some extra canvas and also the all important pegs and poles, and not poles, pegs and guy ropes and things like that. Let's get a look at that. So,
The fridge.
so this one's
Okay, that's a decent setup, isn't it?
configured with
Yeah.
a big Dometic Waco, and it's a fridge freezer set up in here.
So with these fridges, you can choose to have 2 fridges as well, can't you? So both compartments can be frozen, both compartments can be
Yeah,
fridges, I think,
yeah, you
just
can
by temperature adjustment.
Yeah, set it up
Yep.
however you want it. And if you don't want this brand, they'll swap it out
Yep.
with something else. So that's good flexibility.
Yep.
So there's in fact a storage unit in there for the diesel fuel,
Okay.
and it's plumbed into the heater, and you can dial up
any old.
So it's just like a push button start on that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's get some.
There goes the compressor.
Yep. Lights.
Yep.
So there's either insect colour lights or the white lights,
Yep.
LED. So the water heaters are glow. So we've got
Plug your Siggy style. Oh no, they're USBs. Okay.
and Siggy,
Yep,
so
yep.
plenty of opportunities to charge up cameras or phones
Fantastic.
or whatever it might be.
And under that looks like the kitchen, I'm guessing.
Yeah, let's pull that out. So,
And with that, yep.
oh, another storage area in there, a really long one,
Yep.
which is useful. And then this fella. Now, there's some nifty little legs in here. There you go. This I think is the go because we've got a full queen size bed in there. Sam was telling me that he likes to have a really good sleep, so he's equipped this particular one with a 300mm deep inner spring mattress.
Yep.
So it's just super duper comfy. Tucked up behind the pillows there, you can probably see a bit of brown leather that stretches the full width.
Yep.
Well, that's a cushioned backrest. So I've noticed that when I go camping in our trailers, I like to shove myself down the back there.
So it's
with-
keeping you off the canvas.
yeah,
And
map reading
Yep.
light, but I can't do it because it's all jammed into that wedge.
Okay.
With this one with that backrest there, you can comfortably sit up there with the paper, map reading light over the top, and read to your heart's
okay.
content in a really comfy position. So that's good.
nice.
Yeah, following
So
on
you've
the
got-
theme of the electrics, so we've got controls for lights up in here. We can turn on all the
More 240 volt outlets and 12 volt outlets, and probably some USBs, I'm guessing, there.
we
Yep.
go. The challenge with a lot of camper trailers is that there isn't a lot of space in this back area here. So I can tell you that you can get a table in here and chairs, no problem. So if the weather's chucking it down, folks, you can get out of the weather in here, and you've got enough.
You'd also get a couple of kids in here too on beds.
Oh, easy.
Yeah.
So Sam was saying that I think he's had 4 kids lined up in rows in swags
Yeah.
in here.
Can I ask what the vented thing is over there? Is that a heater?
Yeah, yeah. It's got an underfloor heater.
Yep.
So Steane, I did mention that the camper is pretty much self-sufficient.
Yep.
And if you stand back here, you'll see up on top of the roof there's a solar blanket.
Oh, yep, absolutely, yeah.
So
what sort of output do they have?
350 watts.
Yeah.
So that's a fair bit of juice to keep the battery.
To keep you offline and off the grid for a while.
So underneath there is independent suspension. So there's an arm for each wheel. There's an air bellows, so air suspension. We
Yep.
mentioned that before, so you can increase the ride height or lower it. There's also a twin shock setup, so
Yeah.
it's well dampened. So
Yeah.
I have no doubt over, going up to the Simpson Desert, perhaps up the Bursville track over those incessant corrugations,
Yep.
that you won't have any.
Well, towing it up
Sort of
over some
fade.
pretty rocky sections up the hill we did earlier, it just sat smoothly on the track. You didn't feel it bouncing the back of the car or doing anything. So.
Yeah, that's good. The awning on the side is generous. You can put walls on that if you want to.
Yep. How about weight? What does it weigh?
Good question. So empty from memory, they're about 1,100 kilos. Can
Yeah.
go up to about 1,800 kilos.
So it's as far as camper trailers go, is it a mid-weight, would you say?
I'd say so. So
Yeah.
it's not a super heavy,
Yeah.
and it's not a super light. It's just right in
Yeah,
the middle.
And you towed it up here to Bendleby
Yeah.
with the new D-Max,
Yeah.
and it felt good on the highway at speed.
The thing I really liked about it is it tracked straight
Yeah.
and true. So some campers get a bit nervous.
So it's correctly set up through the drawbar to have the weight
Yeah.
right on the tow bar.
Total downforce, I think,
Yeah.
from memory, was about 150 kilos,
Yep.
so it's not much.
Okay.
Most dual cabs will cop about 300
Yep.
in that regard, maybe a bit more. So it's not putting a lot of downforce on the back of the car. In fact, I
Okay.
did measure that. So on the D-Max at full height, the suspension in the wheel arch was 900mm. With this on the back, it deflected by 30mm, so that's not
That's
bad.
not too bad. Yeah.
So I think it's got the good weight
So
distribution.
it's been well set up and well thought out, which is what you'd expect from an engineer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So he's a clever boy.
Yeah,
that's for
absolutely.
sure. So there we have it. So offline camper trailers. I'd suggest you navigate to their website at offlinecampers.com.au and you'll find out all about them. So let's talk about this camper. So it's built here in South Australia. So it's built in Adelaide. It uses a lot of locally sourced components. So in this era of COVID, where everybody's going out and about and seeing things, there's been no greater demand on caravan and camper trailer sales. And I think Sam's positioned very, very nicely with the offline camper to do great business because it is a seriously good piece of kit.
We packed that up and set it up every day.
Yep.
Because we moved around a bit. And that was a doddle as well, wasn't it?
Well, one thing I found particularly useful was the setting up of the floor, like putting it down and bringing it back up, is done by a motor. So there's a 12-volt winch in there that pulls it up and makes that job really easy instead of
No longer
really
do you need
tedious.
like two people too, and it's not so heavy. It's not such a liability.
Burly sort of muscles.
Yeah.
And the activation on that was very clever because there was a flip switch on each side of the trailer body, so you can check on the stowage of the canvas on each side as it's going up and down. It's got a pretty long drawbar, so that makes it nice and stable. Didn't seem to be excessively heavy, so a couple of times I had to overtake. Whipped around the semis, no problem at all, so that was good. So very, very stable.
Clearance-wise, like going up the track here behind the Triton, how did it go? Because it looks like it's got a fair bit of clearance.
The articulation in the hitch area was good. There were a couple of times we went through a couple of gullies and it didn't seem to touch down there, which is usually a point where they raise a bit of a rumble. It sits up nice and high. It's got a double shock arrangement underneath
independent
it with
suspension.
airbag suspension,
trick.
which you can pump up and down to suit the load or the terrain. So it's incredibly well thought out, as Sam the engineer would do. So I think, folks, if you're interested in checking out offline campers, you should visit their website. So that's www.offlinecampers.com.au, made here in South Australia. Look at that. That is an incredibly beautiful wheel. Black satin finish, 10-spoke design, very, very chunky and tough. Look great on any four-wheel drive. Comes in 3 different sizes, a 16x8, a 17x9 and an 18x9. So you'll find a fitment to suit just about any four-wheel drive. I've got to tell you, I love this wheel. CSA Bullet, and you'll find it on the CSA website. So it's csadirect.com.au. If you're going to come into this sort of country, you need confidence in your tyres. Trev the Triton has got the rubber just made for it, but I'm not so confident about the new D-Max, nor the Triton behind it, because they're on passenger car rubber. But Trev the Triton is running Toyo's brilliant OPAT 2. That's open country, all-terrain, second generation. And I know in just a few hundred metres time, we've got this really steep descent coming up, and I'll have total confidence in the OPAT 2s going down that hill. But the other two, going to be a bit slipping and sliding. I've been coming here for about 15 years, I reckon, doing driver training programs on the tracks at the Bendleby Ranges. And this is, for me, a new one. It's called Pat's Peak Track. And it's a linking track. Comes off the valley floor, climbs up to the top of the hill and goes back down again. And here is one of 2 spectacular descents. And I reckon in just a moment's time, we're going to see our convoy of four-wheel drives, our flotilla of four-wheel drives, doing a bit of a scramble down to the bottom of the hill. And I can't wait.
Well, this is going to be pretty bloody fun.
And what we've got coming up down here is basically a scree slope, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be loose,
It's gonna be
slip
nice and
sliding
slippery.
away.
Yeah.
Yep, that looks good. Stay out wide there on the left. That's good, that's good, that's good, that's good. All right, stay flat, turn. You got it. All right, aim for me now. Steer, left, 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 left. Straighten up and aim for me. That's it. Aim for me, aim for me. That's it. Left a bit, left a bit, left a bit, that's it. Got it. So Rose, how was that?
That was absolutely amazing. Great.
Well done, nice steering. So this first bit you'll need to favour the left in a sec. That's good. Now straighten up, hold that line. Come all the way out here towards me. Yep, don't turn yet, don't turn yet, don't turn yet, don't turn yet, don't turn yet. Now turn. How's that?
Fun, mate.
That's good, that's good, that's good, that's good. Start your turn. Yep, that's good. Now straighten up. Sort of aim for me. Right hand, the left hand rear wheel's coming off the ground. Woo, nice one. All right, keep coming out towards me. Towards me, towards me, towards me, towards me, towards me, towards me. Turn. Get around to the left. Steano, how was that, mate?
That was fun. Bit slippery in these highway terrains, but fun.
Another illustration of why light truck all-terrain tyres are the best in this country.
So, panel of experts, we've taken a close look at the D-Max in the Bendleby's. I reckon it's time we had a look at the Triton. What do you reckon?
Bring it on.
Let's do it.
Steane, where are we?
We're at Pat's Peak,
And
which
where's
is
that?
in Bendleby Ranges, and it's the steepest ascent, I believe, in the Bendleby Ranges. Probably the steepest in the Flinders Ranges, well, potentially.
I wonder who Pat was.
Some drunk Irishman.
Probably.
What other Pats are there?
Yeah, correct. Anyway, his name isn't being used in vain because this is Ripper Track. Oh
Yeah.
my God, look at what's coming up in front of us. We've got Trev the Triton and the D-Max
Steep
up
old
in
track,
front.
isn't it?
It's quite an angle up there.
Yeah.
Anyway, this car has impressed us greatly over the last day
So
and
yeah,
a half.
it's Triton GSR. It definitely punches above its weight.
What's the price point?
55 for the GSR.
Holy cow.
Round figures.
And you think about what that's packing, because I'm sitting here in the driver's seat. I've got paddle shifts. No other four-wheel drive's got
yeah,
that.
and they change instantly, which is
Yep.
quite different to what the D-Max does with its normal sports shifter.
It's got down there Super Select with the all-wheel drive
Yep.
function, which is the best transmission in the
And
business.
a terrain system, so you can pick a terrain.
Oh yeah, forgetting
so
that.
In this case, probably want to be in rock to get up here because it changes the throttle settings.
Let's push those buttons right now.
So get that sorted out.
Mud, snow,
It's not bouncing all over the place.
sand.
And it does make a difference because we tried that out yesterday.
Yep. And what it does, folks, is it softens the throttle openings so that you don't get a jerky application of power. It just
Yeah,
makes
exactly.
it all nice and smooth and fluid, and it works a treat.
And inside it's leather, much like the D-Max, the X-Terrain that we're comparing it to this weekend. It's got pretty much the same features, slightly smaller infotainment screen, but around $7,000 to $8,000 difference in price.
Yeah, and that's a lot of coin that you can
Yeah.
put towards tyres, suspension,
Absolutely.
maybe a bar or something
But
like
the
that.
difference is the D-Max is overall a more polished product now.
It is. You'd expect that because
yeah.
it's the brand new kid
Yeah.
on the block.
Well, the other thing you do is get Super Select, obviously, and all-wheel drive.
Yeah. So that's a big plus
Yeah.
with these.
So it's a bit of it's a well packaged vehicle, isn't it?
Yeah.
In what it gets.
And boys and girls, don't do this at home, but there's just a ripper vista ahead that I need to record for you for future posterity. Got it. Wow, that is a steep
You and
gradient.
your bloody camera.
I'm sorry. So, what's this like to tow? Well, we have
haven't had an opportunity with this particular one because it doesn't have a tow bar, but we know from past experience that this motor, this 2.4 diesel, is a willing performer.
Well, we were towing today with the MQ Trevor Pet Triton.
Yep.
Same drivetrain, apart from it's missing a gear in the auto, and it tows really well.
And that's probably worth mentioning.
Yeah.
So the generation you've got is a 5-speed box.
5-speed box,
And this
yeah.
is a 6-speed.
6-speed. So
And
same ice and gearbox. This is the 6-speed, same as what's in the D-Max.
Right, and also the Hilux
Yep.
and the Prado,
Yeah.
and probably a few others.
Yeah, and I reckon if we're being honest about the Triton, I think it is probably, the engine's perhaps a little bit small. It doesn't feel as relaxed about the way it goes about things on the highway, mainly overtaking and towing as the D-Max does. But there's not stacks in it.
No, it's good. I've always enjoyed my time in them, and here I am doing
taking
something
a
I
bloody
shouldn't be
photo
doing.
again.
Something
So you go up the steepest hill on the Flinders Ranges using your knees on the steering wheel.
Multitasking. That's what we do at Adventure. Adventure-driven loaded 4x4.
No, Steve's probably going to edit that bit out. So what other things are good about this car that we found out this weekend is because it's got a shorter wheelbase, it's actually got a really good ramp over angle. So where the D-Max clunks underneath on rocks in some situations, the Triton will just sort of glide through. The rear departure is not as good for the same reason. It's a short wheelbase and a long tray sticking out the back, so you tend to clunk the tow bars or the back of the car if you're not careful. I'll keep talking because you've got some rocks to negotiate.
Yeah, I need to concentrate for just a second.
The other thing we tested yesterday was traction control, so in low range, so brake traction control. And the Triton is still significantly better than the D-Max.
It was ace.
So where the D-Max needed a couple of goes to get up the hill, the Triton just sailed over again. Both have diff locks, so they're with the diff lock in, they went up the same hill with ease. So the diff locks, in the case of these cars, are still superior to the traction control systems.
But what was interesting yesterday with that demo we did is that the Triton went up first go, traction control only, whereas D-Max I had to have a couple of cracks at it with traction and then a single go with diff lock.
You better stop talking again and watch these rocks up here because you're surrounded on both sides.
Yeah, if you're listening we might hear the chime of side steps. No? Manage that. Oh!
Maybe we didn't manage that. I heard a chime.
Oh! Sorry, Kat.
And the other thing we tested yesterday was the stability control, so high speed. We actually had a bit of rain and found a slippery section of road. And the D-Max is better than the Triton.
Yeah.
But both are good.
Yeah. So I think we should summarise this and say that Triton is still a ripper truck, there's no doubt about it, and the price point that it's at is a considerable saving there, but the D-Max is the winner.
Yeah, and we'll tell you which one we'll buy when we drive the D-Max next.
Absolutely. Cool.
So gang, what did we think about the Triton? Steane, you thought it punched above its weight?
crap cliches.
Yeah.
And I said it twice,
You're
I'm never
full of
saying
it,
it again in that one, but I do think it does.
Good.
In this case, because it's significantly less money to buy than the D-Max. You get Super Select, which is a far superior drivetrain, which gives you the all-wheel drive option. I don't know why you get a two-wheel drive option in it. I've never been able to work that out.
I still reckon it's the best tranny in the business because it offers that option. Now, whilst the learned members of the world might appreciate the all-wheel drive function, a lot of them are still in the dark ages and they hunger for their two-wheel drive option. So they put it in there. So I get it. Mitsubishi's banking on getting as many customers through the door.
I just remove it. But anyway. So,
continue.
Yeah. So it's got the best drivetrain. Off-road, I found it better. It's a narrower car, so far more manoeuvrable.
Yeah,
I know you're going to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
Narrow car, so far more manoeuvrable. The wheelbase is shorter, so you've got the benefits of a better ramp over angle. Didn't really clunk on the back very often.
Surprisingly.
In that terrain, so
Yeah,
it was good.
going down Pat's Peak, I noticed that significantly because in the D-Max it was scraping and crunching the side step, whereas in the Triton, but even in the Triton, nothing. It was fine.
Yeah, so it does, as I said twice, punch above its weight.
What was that again, Steane?
Sorry, I'm not saying it again. That's it, never again.
What do you think about the looks of it? Because I know that the front end of the Triton has got a lot of kickback. I personally am coming around to it. I love the look of the Triton. I think it looks really, really nice side on. I think the profile and the lines, it just looks great.
Yeah.
I love the look of a Triton.
Let's talk about the front, because Mitsubishi call that dynamic shield styling, which is some wanky explanation for that angular stuff. And I agree with you. When I first saw it, I thought, oh my God, what are you doing? It's almost
It was
like-
a shock. It
it's
was
almost
so
like doing
different to the first one.
A Mazda BT50 to
Yeah.
a Triton GSR.
Yeah.
But it warms on you after a period of time.
Yeah.
I think it's got two faults in the styling. The styling is subjective, but for me, it's too narrow, the car, from a looks point of view, long and narrow, and the wheelbase thing. So you've got this big overhang at the back. The wheelbase needs to be longer.
Yeah.
And I think the D-Max in comparison, is a fantastic looking car. I like the Triton.
Yeah.
I own a Triton, but they've always been a bit quirky.
Yeah.
Tritons with the looks.
Rose?
I like it.
Well, as we said before, like it's hard to look over the bonnet of both cars, including
Yeah.
the Triton.
Yeah, I think Triton's a little bit better in that respect than the D-Max.
You know what my favourite bit about the Triton is?
What's that?
The black roof.
Important.
Yeah, it's all about aesthetics for me.
It does look
I
good.
don't know why vehicle manufacturers don't take a leaf out of Land Rover's book. I mean, have a look at the Defender here. It's got a white roof on that beautiful teal green bodywork.
It does look good.
And two-tone looks great. So black on
I
that,
love it.
that
Yeah, I like-
orange
I like
was a
that,
good combo.
So you like black roofs, nothing on the floor but plastic,
No.
16 or 17 inch wheels.
Yeah.
What else? It's another one of cloth seats. You don't like leather?
Yeah, no, you can stick all that up your bottom, where places where the sun don't
Speaking
shine.
of bottom, it should have some heated seats.
No, I like vinyl floors, and I don't like stupid push button starts. You can stick that too. Give me a key any.
Well, all that
day.
stuff you don't like, I'll have.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So there we go. There's the different buyer profile. And paddle shifts I will take. Thank you very much. I
They're
thought
awesome, aren't they?
Yeah.
in the
That was a
Triton?
unique
Yeah.
feature in the Triton. Yeah.
They're really good. How'd you find it on road, ladies, when you were driving up?
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know, felt sturdy.
Yeah.
Like we said, the transmission's great because you don't have to drive in two-wheel drive.
Yep.
It's so much safer,
It was heavier.
Yeah.
A lot heavier than steering.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's noticeable off-road as well.
But that's
Yeah.
because the front wheels are doing something.
yeah.
Okay.
Now, can I ask what this little number is?
Ah, yes.
That's the Triton dongle. Well, so that hangs down, that hangs off the front snout of the rear diff.
Right.
So where the tail shaft runs into the diff like that, that is bolted. When it's straight, is bolted and sits down there. So it sort of sits under the tail shaft a
I
little
think
bit.
from memory it was something like that.
Yeah, the other way around. So
Okay.
it hangs off.
Like that. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's a mass vibration
Okay.
dampener. So there's a little, and it's only on the automatic Tritons, there's a little bit of a vibration. You can just feel it under load on hills at sort of highway speeds, and that's the cure for it. But of course, because it hangs down a lot, it's the first thing that gets hit. So that's the one off Trev from that trip.
Okay.
From this trip that we
Yeah.
just came back from. And that just got wiped off.
Yeah. Not the new Triton, folks.
No,
Not the
well,
press car.
we did the same thing to the press car as well.
Okay.
So that one was actually
Take note.
That one was actually wrapped around the tail shaft. So we drive. I was going. So we had to get under there with a screwdriver and bend it back
Yeah.
out again.
Okay.
So that one survived. Trev's didn't.
Yeah.
But that's
okay.
it's a Mitsubishi sort of workaround fix for a vibration
Okay.
rather than fixing the vibration.
And it's sort of do with tail shaft length, because gearboxes are different lengths. Manual gearboxes are usually longer, autos shorter, or round about
Or
the other way.
around.
Yeah, I can't remember. But anyway, the longer the tail shaft, the more articulation it's got to do. And on certain suspension angles, the yoke and the uni joint have got to get on some crazy angles, and that can create this harmonic that appears at certain speeds.
Well, I've actually noticed it at highway speeds on flat ground. So and it could just be the mass of the extra long tail shaft as well.
And the cheap fix to tune that out is to hang a lump of metal off the offending component,
Yeah.
and it just disperses the
Yeah.
energy, like a Yamaha tuning fork, like their symbol.
Yeah, exactly. So most people take those off the Tritons
That's what I was thinking too.
before heading off road.
Yeah. It for me would go the same way as side steps
Yeah.
and
Out.
excessive bumpers and things like that. Chuck them off, don't need them, that'd go too.
Yeah.
Well, it's gone now, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
that won't fit anymore.
Very
There you
good.
go.
Yeah. And you were going to talk about the interior of the car. being
Yeah,
narrow.
look, you mentioned the narrowness of of the track width of the car, which influences the whole thing. So you've got a narrow tub on the back, which impinges slightly on carrying capacity. But I've noticed it as a slightly bigger boy, getting into the cabinet's a bit tight for me. So I've got my left shin up against the centre console, a bit like jumping into one of these things. It just feels a bit tight. However, the good thing with it, there's plenty of fore-aft movement in the driver's seat.
You're used, we should put out, you're used to the D-Max and the MUX, which have been wide-ass trucks compared to the Triton for a long time now. So you jump out of that into that regularly and drive that and then jump into a Triton, it feels narrow.
Yeah. I should say though that it doesn't take long to get acclimatised to it. So it's no big deal. It's just an observation I make. Yeah. And I know plenty of tall guys who are driving the Tritons.
Or girls.
Yeah, girls too. Yeah, you've done some time in them. Yeah, so it's not a deal breaker. Yeah, it's just an observation. Yeah. So a pretty decent truck, I think.
Yeah.
And very well priced.
Definitely punches above its weight.
Shut up. Well, this is Trev, our pet Triton that we've been building up over the last couple of years, I guess. It's been featured in our magazine. So we've done quite a bit to Trev, including two really special ARB things. The ARB Frontier tank, which we'll talk about another time, and this fridge. Now, I paid real money for this fridge, so we're not blowing smoke up anyone's bottom.
So you've made a conscious decision to go down this pathway.
So the whole thing with Trev was to keep the tub open and travel light, put a slide in and mount the fridge, which is what we've done.
And folks, that's an important point. This thing lives out in the elements. Funnily, it's called an
the
ARB Elements fridge.
So I think it's around 60 litres.
Spends all its time outside.
And this one has, so for 2 years now, it's been literally outside. And one of the great features of it, or one of the many great features of it, is the insulation. So you can see here the thickness of the lid. It's chock-a-block full of insulation, so I can sit out in the sun and keep cool. So it actually keeps a bit cooler than a lot of fridges. If we pop the hatch here.
And that's really important because the last thing you want is the ambient temperature creeping into the cabinet space.
Absolutely. And another great feature is the strut for the lid. Now, people buy these fridges just for the struts.
Just let me try that again. So
you're used to having the lid fall down on your hands as you're getting something out of a fridge. Well, this one doesn't do that.
That is a real asset. No two ways about it.
And of course, being a fridge designed for outside, it's lockable. So there's an electronic lock system here.
Right.
So you can set a code and keep it locked so no one can get into it, like lean over the tub and jump in.
Something else I like about it too is it's got proper aluminium catches, not plastic catches. So you can imagine the durability on those is astounding.
Super strong. Mounts in easily with sort of tamper-proof screws. Hasn't flattened the battery yet. I've never flattened the battery. In fact, it'll cut out. I have had it cut out on me when it's got down to a certain voltage in the battery. Right. So it looks after your battery for you.
Right. That's a good thing.
You might end up with a warm beer after a couple of days.
But last thing you want is a car that won't start.
Generally, I get 2 days out of it if it was just sitting.
Excellent. So there's a bottle of water for you.
Oh, thank you.
I think I'm going to have a beer.
Why can't I have a beer?
Because you're on the clock.
What are you doing?
So there you go, ARB Elements fridge. You'll find it at your nearest ARB store right around the country.
Great fridges. And now, folks, we're going to shoot across to our lounge area and listen to Dave answer some frequently asked questions.
It should probably come as no surprise that we get a lot of feedback from our readers and our viewers about four-wheel drive subject matter. So we thought that we'd delve into some basic and some advanced four-wheel drive 101, as I'm calling it. And today I'm looking at part-time four-wheel drives. And to address a question that is often asked, and it seems not explained particularly well by the dealers when you go to buy yourself a new four-wheel drive, and that is, what surfaces can I drive a part-time four-wheel drive on? Now, the question came in the other day, David, can I drive my brand new D-Max on a wet bitumen road in high-range four-wheel drive? And the simple answer is no, don't do that, because you will break the transmission. So I'd like to understand, or have you understand, how all that works. So, in this case, the modern idiom for building a part-time four-wheel drive is to use a selector that looks like this. So back in the day, we used to have a transfer lever, the good old-fashioned analogue way of engaging four-wheel drive. Nowadays, we use an electronic activation courtesy of this dial, and it offers up 3 positions. So there's 2 in high range, 1 in two-wheel drive, 1 in four-wheel drive, give you exactly the same travel speed. 1 is for bitumen, 1 is for dirt.
and lastly, low range is for your steep and your boggy stuff. So that covers that. If we look at the drive line, we've got here a wheel in each corner, obviously. Again, the modern idiom with a part-time four-wheel drive is to have the front wheels in permanent connect with the front axles and therefore the differential. So every time you drive down the road, all of that componentry is turning over. As we go down towards the back of the vehicle, we've got a front propeller shaft and the first of our two gearboxes. Now this drawing isn't 100% accurate because these gearboxes should be sitting side by side, but just for the purposes of simplicity, I've stacked them up on top of one another. So we've got the previously mentioned transfer case sitting up on top there, and then we've got the main gearbox. And depending on whether you've got an automatic version with L, which is first gear or low, second, third, D for dumb, sorry, drive, neutral, reverse and park, or a manual, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 in reverse. Then as we go down the back end, we've got the rear propeller shaft, rear differential, rear axles and the back wheels. Now, when we're in two-wheel drive, which is our mode for around town, all of the energy goes out through the back wheels. So in two-wheel drive, we have 100% of that vehicle's energy going out through there and there. Now on a bitumen road, that's A-OK, because with all of the torque exiting those back wheels, we can go down that bitumen road confidently, turn into and out of the corners, no drama at all. But if we stray onto a dirt road, it's a different baby, because with all of the energy exiting the back, it's a bit like a big old pendulum, this thing, and it's very, very easy to kick the back end out, and that's what causes crashes on dirt roads, so we don't want that. So the way to fix it is to go into high range four-wheel drive. So the simple way to do this is as you move from the bitumen road space onto the dirt road space, get the front wheels in the dead ahead direction, because we need the front wheel speed to match the back wheel speed. Get off the gas so there's no load on the transmission. Spin the dial into the 4H position, and what that does is it encourages this front propeller shaft to spin up to the same speed that the back one's travelling at, and it makes a synchronised engagement with that front differential. So now we're in four-wheel drive, we've got a 50-50 split of torque across both front and back axles. And the beauty with that is we've now got the front wheels pulling as the back wheels are pushing. So when we go around that next bend on a dirt road, the car doesn't go sideways. So it's incredibly safe in that mode, and I would recommend it to you, and it's easy as pie to engage. And I should mention that a part-time four-wheel drive will sustain a high-range four-wheel drive engagement at speeds up to 100 kilometres an hour. But I don't recommend you do that. Try and keep your speeds down to a more modest 80 kilometres an hour if the road space will support it, and that'll help to keep you safe. Now, getting back to this issue about driving on the right surfaces. A part-time four-wheel drive, because of the nature of the driveline, is designed to work on a loose surface. So that's sand, mud, rock, gravel, but not bitumen, concrete or paving. And the reason for that is this. The job of the differential is manifold, but basically its job, first of all, is to send the energy out to the wheels. So thanks to the clever collection of gears inside that housing, it facilitates that, changes the energy from a longitudinal direction out to the side, so that's good. But the really important thing it allows us to do is to change direction. So that tells us if we were to go around, say, a left-hand bend, and I got my tape measure and measured from point A there to point B there, the distance travelled by each of those wheels will be different. So it means that the wheels on the inside radius of the bend have got a lesser distance to travel compared to the wheels on the outside radius of the bend. Now, when we're in two-wheel drive, I mentioned before, all the energy goes out through the back wheels. So on a bitumen road, that's A-OK, no drama at all. But if we were to hook this up into four-wheel drive and join the front end to the back end and still drive on a bitumen road, there will be a problem. And the reason for that is that that prop shaft and that prop shaft are now joined and being told to turn over at the same speed. In turn, they are wanting to drive each differential and each axle or drive shaft at the same speed. Now, whilst we're travelling in a straight line, that's absolutely A-OK. You probably won't notice anything at all. But as soon as the corners start to emerge, then we have this dreaded thing called wind-up emerge. And wind-up is very simply this. As we turn left and we turn right, we've got different wheel inputs. So we've got, let's pick a different colour here. We've got input X, input Y, coming together with input Z, and we've got a conflict. So as we turn left and right and these wheels are rotating at different speeds in conflict
to that being delivered up by the engine and the gearbox, something's got to give. Now, if the grip underneath the wheels isn't too great, as that tension builds up, it'll get to a point where it's released and it'll spin, and that'll get rid of the problem, no problem at all. But in this case, where we're on a bitumen road, it just builds up and builds up and builds up until the next sensation you'll notice is dollar signs whizzing around in front of your eyes because you've just broken either the front differential or smashed something in the transfer case, and that will cost you significant money. Now, the question was asking earlier about is it possible to drive in full drive on a wet bitumen road, and the simple answer to that is no, because it's the tyre's job to pump that road space dry. And of course, a dry road space means we've got the same grip levels and therefore the same predicament. We've got this big conundrum, and it means that we run the risk of breaking the transmission, so you simply don't want to do it. So I hope that may have explained that little problem and what to avoid in the future. So simply put, with a part-time four-wheel drive, please don't ever drive it in four-wheel drive on a hard surface. That's bitumen, concrete or paving. See you next time.
So these two clowns had a go in the Triton, so now it's Georgia and my turn to have a go. So roll it.
I mean, look, it would be nice to have some cup holders here.
Yes, a couple of cup holders at the front wouldn't go astray.
Yeah.
There are a couple in the centre, which is great. I wouldn't mind something to stand a bottle or a can upright.
Yeah, because it's a bit big.
In the door, yeah.
A bit too much space.
But it's also on a slant.
Yeah. Oof. Someone's filled that rock hole.
So you said over to the right.
Yeah, over to the right.
It's over to the right enough.
So when you just have to guess where the track is.
Yeah. Okay. Fingers crossed I've taken the right line.
Fingers and toes. Oh, go right.
Go right a bit. Yep.
Let's not squash the cameraman. Yep, keep going.
Yep. He's fine, he's made it, and we've made it. All's good.
Oh my god, it's so dusty. Wow. Yeah, nice. Oh, that wasn't too bad.
No, it's sort of ironed out, you know, more than you would expect it to.
Minimal bumpiness, not bad.
Yep. Didn't touch the underside of this car. So, all is good.
So how does that 430 Newton meters feel underneath you?
Feels great. Perfect amount of Newton meters.
Yeah. It's a perfect amount. It's what you want, really.
That's it,
when you're forward driving. I don't actually know if that's how many, but it sounds good.
Look.
What gear range are you using right now?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. I'm in low range first.
Yep.
So it gives you maximum control and you're not running away as you're going downhill.
Yeah.
Which is...
and do you feel like the engine's sufficiently holding you?
My hand, noise.
Safe.
Yeah. I mean, you can hear the engine now doing the braking. So, no foot on the brakes whatsoever. And it's a nice, slow and controlled descent. Yeah. And back into first.
Oh!
Well,
a bit sudden.
Was a bit sudden. Perhaps I should have slowed down a tad.
Are we getting separation again or going up together?
Oh, we're going up together.
Yeah.
here, so bunch up and go together.
Roger that. Copy that.
Is that you, Mr. Armstrong?
Now, you and George have been driving the Triton this morning. What's your verdict on the car?
I think the Triton as a full drive vehicle is great off-road, and as well as the off-road ability, it has lots of comfort. It's smooth. It's you just feel safe in it. You know, it just chugs along nicely. So I'm enjoying it. Great ride in the Triton.
It's always a bit of fun at Bendleby. So, what do we think? After driving both cars, what would you go, Steane?
If it was my money, and I'll qualify this by saying, of the two, I think the D-Max is the better car. And we probably all think that, I think, potentially.
Yeah.
It's new.
It's new, and it is better in most ways, as far as, you know, just general driving goes. But I'd take the Triton.
Wow.
Shock horror. I'd save the $6,000-$7,000, whatever it is, difference in price. Put that into some accessories. But I think the Triton's got better traction control off-road. It's a narrower car, which I prefer, so it's more manoeuvrable. The wheelbase meant it was better in that terrain. You know, touched down a lot less. That's it. That's what I get.
I could see some in that little budget you've just suddenly found for the car, a fitment of some nice 17-inch CSA wheels just over there might work really well.
18s, David. Take us 17s.
I'll take you anywhere.
And Rose?
Well, I have a soft spot for Isuzus. I've got an MUX, and we've had a D-Max, the old D-Max, and I have to say that this new one is killer. It is the steering in particular. I mean, we've all agreed it is.
Everybody notices the steering.
Yes,
First thing, isn't it?
and we've all agreed that it is the better car, the newer car in a way. But
it's definitely better.
You know, so that's what I like. I like the steering for sure is just amazing. It feels like you're driving just a normal passenger car. Off-road, it's pretty bloody good because you know you've got the rear diff lock, which just makes chug along so easily. Comfort, I mean, you know, these days most of the four-wheel drives are on-road, so that's a big consideration. And on-road, the D-Max is incredible. You know, it's got heated seats. Thank you very much.
Love that.
And the cup holders. I have to
Cool
say,
cup holders, heated seats.
Isuzu is king when it comes to cup holders. But you know, seriously, it's a great car to drive on-road, off-road, and yeah, I know it's a little bit more expensive, but I think you know
worth
it
it.
ticks a lot of boxes for me.
David?
My turn.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think we already know this because I'm an Isuzu fanboy. It's
not biased though.
It's going to be the new D-Max, but I need to qualify that because I have rubbished the previous generation on a couple of key areas. Like the traction control system was junk, wasn't worth 2 knobs of goat poo. You got to spin it up to 2,500 revs to get the traction control to buy it. So it was obviously tuned for an on-road moment rather than an off-road moment. So now with the new model, which pleases me greatly, when you select low range, it changes the algorithm for the traction control to intervene to around 1100 RPM is our best guess, and that makes a massive difference to its off-road ability because that matters to me. Forget all the cup holders, forget the Apple CarPlay and all that other wanky stuff.
Carpet, the leather, the 18-inch wheel, forget all that.
Yeah, forget all that. I want to know this thing will go off-road, and it will now. Coupled to that, as you just mentioned, the rear diff lock makes a huge old difference.
And I forgot to mention the IDAS.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And sorry, Rosa, I forgot to mention the IDAS as well.
Yeah.
Because that's what actually puts me off.
Right. Okay.
There are certain things about that system that are annoying because you can be going along a track which is perfectly clear of obstacles, but it picks up on shrubs. You can see them. You're going to avoid them. There's no threat of any damage or anything like that. But you know, warning bells and whistles start going. It is. So.
And on the point on IDAS, one thing I did like about it, and it saved my bacon the other day, is I had a bit of a noddy moment. So it was a long distance drive. I did drift off to the left of the road a bit, and it recognised my
lane error and wake me up. So I gave the
That's
steering a
good.
big old shake, steered it back into the middle of the road.
At highway speed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it also does that in 60k zones.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and that's one of the annoying things.
That's another thing that works me about.
Yeah. But on my new truck, so I've been driving that now for 4 months or so. There's a couple of things I don't like. One in particular is I can't get enough water up onto the windscreen when I want to clean it because it's got a new system.
Oh yeah, the crazy wiper
Like
system.
drops it down.
Yeah, routes it
Yeah.
up through the wiper arm, and a couple of droplets come out along the length of the wiper rubber. That's garbage.
Yeah.
I need a jet of stuff coming up onto the windscreen.
Especially when
to
you're
get rid
going
of the
bush.
bugs.
Yeah. Might be
And-
right around
And
town.
because you're our resident infotainment expert,
Please.
Who?
I'm saying that with a lot of sarcasm.
Yeah.
What do you think of the system in the big screen and the D-Max? and how
It is
works?
way better than the previous one because nobody could get that to work. But Apple CarPlay does have its strong points. Like I do like that I can run a podcast off my phone now, but I would say the connectivity between my phone and it is still a bit hit and miss.
Yeah.
You know, it's not an automatic given
Yeah.
that it's
It's
going
not
to be.
perfect. I don't think any of these systems really are yet, but I did notice in the Isuzu it was not quite as good as the Triton in that regard.
Yeah, but the screen's great. So my old eyes can't see anything anymore. Having that massive screen there made it a whole lot easier to read stuff. So tick on that one.
Georgia, you going to tie break this or make it a D-Max win?
Oh, it's going to be a tiebreaker. I'm all for the Triton. I think it's, like we've mentioned, the shorter wheelbase just made it a dream going over places like Bendleby. You know, you've got the big rock steps, you're not hitting down, you're not crunching things underneath, which is nice to know. You don't have that anxiety of like, oh, am I going to hit something and ruin the car? The other thing, as we've said, the IDAS, I really don't like it. And maybe that's just me not being ready for it at this point in time, but I know eventually all cars will have something similar, an autonomous, safety system.
Yeah, you won't be able to duck it. Every car will have
No,
it.
I know, but I think I will try and stick with the old school four-wheel drive as long as I can because I know it's reliable and it's not going to make me question my driving intuition because I'm not going to be questioning every beep and every alert that they give me.
Look, I'm with you 100% on that, but as we've previously discussed, Isuzu, I'm sure, will update the software in these things and probably back off the intensity of the current tune on it, I think.
And I think there needs to be a little bit more flexibility, putting in your customised settings perhaps, maybe you've got the option to easily access that and turn certain things off. And have it programmed even after you've turned the car off. Because now, if you sort of do that, turn the car off, it resets and you have to do it all over again.
It is a little bit too much of a nanny state type.
So there you go, folks. Looks like the panel is equally split, 50-50.
And that wasn't planned.
Must be something to do with the orange colour, I reckon.
Two very good cars there.
Yeah, definitely.
Can't go wrong with either.
So there we go. There's our first reviews in episode 1 of the brand new D-Max and also the current new Triton.
And if you're after some good gear, don't forget to check out shop.loaded4x4.com.au. You can even join our Good Gear membership for a discount on all 4x4 products. Also, now that we've got our YouTube channel, don't forget to subscribe for future videos because we're going to be checking out some pretty cool places. And I mean, how good was Bendleby? It's just such a good place.
Yeah, it is amazing. And I might just chime in too. We need to make sure that the viewers send us in questions. So if you've got something you want answered, bring it on. Send us some feedback. We'd love to hear from it.
We don't often get answers right, Dave. We'll do our best.
But we'll try.
And on the website, you'll also notice too an article that Steane wrote about the Bendlebys. So tell us about your experience up there.
Well, I've been there probably half a dozen times now, I think. It's a 4 drivers paradise in South Australia. Short, 4-hour drive from Adelaide? 500 clicks, just north of Orroroo, 50 k's sort of northeast of Orroroo. And there's everything there. So you can camp, you can bring your camper trailer. There's bush kitchens, I believe. There's plenty of amenities. There's cabins and houses to stay in. Or you can just take your swag and go and stay on the property somewhere. And some tracks that range from super easy but very scenic to quite difficult. So you've got Billy Goats is the famous track there, which is a tough one. And you'll see that coming up in episode 2. So we tackle that one. with a couple of cars, and great property.
And Rose, our favourite accommodation up there?
Well, Gumdale is one of their homesteads that they have there, yeah, variety of accommodation.
Shearers' quarters even.
I was going to say, the shearers' quarters is something that we use quite often when we have groups, taking groups up there. But the other good thing is it's just so easy to sort of make a booking. The people up there are great.
Yeah, very helpful.
And yeah, you just get a good feel of, you know, the
Working
lifestyle
station.
up there. It's a sheep station primarily, but yeah, great views, great four-wheel drive
And
challenges.
classic Flinders Ranges.
Yeah.
This area, it's
Yep.
just stunning.
You can just feel the whole busy world just ebb away as soon as you get up there.
Yeah.
And we have got in episode 2 a couple of other ripper trucks that are coming up. The brand new Land Rover Defender and also the current Jeep
3
Gladiator.
ripper trucks.
Oh, sorry.
Because the old girl's in there as well.
Okay.
We forgot about that one.
Not forgetting this vintage as well.
We've got a real Defender
Yeah, Rob.
in the show as well.
A real
yeah.
car, hey?
So we're going to put them to the test on the Bendleby Hills, and we're going a bit further afield to South Australia's fabulous Coffin Bay. So watch out for that one. That's coming up real soon.
And don't forget the old girl, David.
Oh yeah, keep on forgetting that.
Yeah, we're taking Rolf. 300 TDI, 1994 300 TDI Defender.
In the slow lane.
Well, it was, yes.
Roger that, but you just can't get good talent anymore.